Okay, so Robin from DC, you are on Talk Heathen. How can we help you?
Hi, I just heard your very creative intro, and I think this ties in pretty well with my question. You talked about combating belief, or at least withholding belief in theism using logic and reason. As atheists, why would you be critical? Yeah, well, as atheists, why would you be critical? Yes, it was very very colorful illustration.
Thank you.
But I'm curious as to why you guys as atheists would be critical about anything if nothing can be defended to be impossible. On what grounds would you be critical about any state of affairs?
So nothing can be proven to be impossible. Nothing can.
Yeah. Well, in your worldview, nothing can be defended to be impossible. Do you
okay, so it just so happens on my desk there is an egg. So I could say to you, Robin from DC, I laid this egg earlier. It could be that I laid the egg earlier, or it could be that for some inexplicable reason, I like to keep an egg on my desk. The fact that it's anatomically impossible for me to lay an egg discounts the idea that I laid the egg and makes it infinitely more likely that I just have an egg on my desk. So when you say it's impossible for anything to be proven and for anything to be proven to be impossible, I'm not sure we're on the same wavelength.
Yeah, and just because even if that was true, let's say that that's true, right? That like we can't prove what you're saying, or we can prove, it's kind of confusing on the wording. Their point is like that doesn't mean we can just choose to believe in whatever we want, right? Like we're still going to have limitations to what we do and don't think is real. So you know, it's kind of arbitrary at that point.
Well, maybe I could help demonstrate this a little bit better. If I told you right now there is not an egg on your table, Lloyd, do you accept that?
Well, the fact that I'm looking at it means that I would have to not accept it.
Okay, so your purported observation contradicts the state of affairs I just verbalized, right?
Why purported? Direct observation contradicts the claim that there is no egg on my desk. Yeah.
All right. So you believe contradictions are impossible?
That's not what I said.
No.
Are we now in the process of putting words in each other's mouths?
So do you believe?
Go on.
The silence from Robin.
Robin, you there?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Says,
do you hear me?
We can hear you
there
now.
You go.
Proceed.
Okay, sorry about that. My phone. I'm on my phone, and so if it like the screen goes off, and I think my mic goes off as well.
Hate it when that happens, Robin from DC. When will phone manufacturers get their shit together? Oh. Sorry, go on.
Yeah,
carry on.
No, sorry, I didn't. I thought you. Okay, all right. Okay. So do you believe contradictions are impossible?
He clearly doesn't. He just pointed out that there was a contradiction, and therefore, you know, that informed his worldview. So
I think contradictions happen all the time.
No, you just told me you object to what I said, or at least you don't accept what I said.
I contradicted what you said. I contradicted your premise. I didn't say therefore contradictions are impossible or anything like that. You're going one or two steps ahead without establishing the basis for doing so.
So then, if contradictions are not impossible, then it's also true that the egg is not on the table. That's a true statement.
No, it's not true because again, I'm looking at it.
What is happening?
Okay, so then, right? That's only viable in a world where contradictions are not possible. A true contradiction is when you have a state of affairs coexisting with its negation. So I'm negating the state of affairs that you just verbalized, which is that there is an egg on the table. If there is not an egg on the table, you're going to be. You just told me that.
Whoa! You don't just say I'm negating it. On what basis are you negating it? Especially if I'm actually showing you that the egg is here.
So I'm asking you on what basis are you negating it?
No, I've just asked you that. On what basis are you negating it?
I'm just presenting to you a state of affairs, and I want you to respond to it. So how do you respond? You're going to respond that you don't accept it, as you said. Okay. So on what basis? If
I slipped into a parallel universe where this makes sense.
If contradictions are possible,
the burden of proof is on the one who makes claims, right? Like, you're the one making the claim that there's no egg on the desk here, and Lloyd says there is one on the desk there. He's citing his direct observation. What are you citing for your state of affairs?
I don't think you're understanding what I'm telling you.
Oh, definitely.
I'm not making
definitely, yes.
Agree. Okay. On that we agree.
Okay, so I'm not making a claim that this is actually the case. I'm just proposing a state of affairs that I want you to respond to. And the state of affairs in question, the egg is not on the table. Okay? And so you said you do not accept that. And the basis for that is there's contradiction. Now, if contradictions are possible, then you cannot use contradiction as a standard unless you're being arbitrary.
Wait, why can't we cite contradictions? What's stopping us from that?
Contradictions are possible, are they? Okay, are contradictions possible?
Yes. We'd already said that.
Okay, good. So then how did you rule out, aside from contradiction, what I just told you? If contradictions are possible, then how did you rule it out? Are you just being arbitrary?
I ruled out your premise that the egg is not on the desk, using the observation that I'm sat at the desk and the egg is there. I'm really confused at this point. You've completely lost me. And I'm sure I speak for many people who are watching this video. We're going to have to move things on if this is the best you've got.
Do you know what a true contradiction is?
I know what the word contradiction... Yeah, I have a rudimentary grasp of English.
So a contradiction is, if you're verbalizing a contradiction, you're saying state of affairs A coexists with state of affairs not A at the same time and in the same sense. So for example, the grass... Oh,
so you're talking about philosophical definitions.
Green. No, it's just contradiction. Well, if you want to use philosophical definitions, I'm just talking about it in the sense that people understand it, generally speaking. A contradiction is state of affairs A, state of affairs not A at the same time, in the same sense. So the egg is on the table and the egg is not on the table at the same time and in the same sense. That's a true contradiction. And you're telling me that can happen?
Oh, well, that's different from what we were just talking about. Lloyd did not say the egg is there and the egg is not there at the same time. He was just refuting that you were saying that there isn't an egg, and he's saying, yes, there is an egg.
It's kind of messed up that you would jump to that conclusion, to be honest.
Yeah.
I didn't jump to any conclusion. I want you to
know
what you're
saying, that we claim that these true contradictions exist, that we're saying things can exist and not exist at the same time. And Lloyd did not say that at all. You are jumping to that and saying that, oh, you must assume true contradictions exist. So yes, you're definitely jumping to that.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Now that we have a common understanding of Now that we have a common understanding of contradictions, do you believe that contradictions are possible? That a state of affairs can exist with this negation?
Why are you making us repeat things that we've already said?
Yeah.
Why are we going background?
So then you did observe it, and you didn't observe it at the same time and in the same sense.
Right. Okay. I'm muting you, Robin from DC, because if your aim here is for us to have a productive, meaningful conversation, there are two things that you cannot do. Number one, ask the same question over and over and over again. And number two, put words in either my mouth or Dan's mouth. If you have a well thought out argument for anything, let's say the existence of God, then share it with us and we'll tell you what we think. But if your aim is to persuade us, if your aim is to convince us of your position, maybe it's just a difficulty that you have with communicating. And I'm not saying that to be patronizing. Not all of us are gifted communicators. But so far, what we've had from you is nothing but irritating nonsense. So what I'm going to ask you to do is just back up, not ask the same question over and over and over again. Be upfront about the argument that you're making and not make this some kind of weird game where you're trying to make us say things that we don't want to say and don't actually think. Okay, now I am going to unmute you.
Okay. Is there any limit, so I'm just going to take what you said earlier. Since you already answered the question, you said contradictions can exist. So a state of affairs can coexist with its negation. Is there any limit as to
didn't say that
cannot be a contradiction?
No, yeah.
You never said
you've
that.
Redefined what contradiction
That's why I'm trying to get clarification.
You've redefined. I don't mean necessarily a physical contradiction. So the egg being on the table and simultaneously not being on the table. I'm talking about, for example, a contradictory argument or someone contradicting what they've said previously. There are multiple.
Okay, well,
there are multiple meanings or multiple ways that something can be contradictory.
Yes, so that's what I'm telling you. What I mean, because I was asking you the question. So that's the definition I'm using of contradiction. Is that a state of affairs coexists with this negation at the same time and in the same sense? That's what I'm saying when I say contradiction. And so what you just told me, it sounds like you don't believe, or you believe that contradictions are impossible, right?
Can an egg exist and not exist on a desk at the same time? I don't know. I don't think so, unless somebody can demonstrate that through like quantum physics or something. It doesn't.
If we were living in a simulation,
possible.
It could be argued,
yeah.
but we'd need to see evidence of that. You know,
Yeah.
if we're talking about our
It
material
doesn't appear
universe
so.
as understood by us within the limits of scientific understanding, then we can reasonably say the egg exists on the table and doesn't simultaneously not exist on the table.
Okay, is there any reason why that cannot be?
That we're aware of.
No reason.
I'm not aware of any hard evidence that we're living in a simulation, for example. So,
okay, but is there a reason why there cannot be contradictions, or is it just true for no reason?
It hasn't been demonstrated.
I wish this argument had like a play and a fast forward button, because I would be hammering the fast forward button on this argument right now. It feels like you're just trying to make us say something that's going to make us look silly.
No, I'm asking a simple yes or no question. It's a true dichotomy. Either
you can ask whatever you like, but if the question doesn't make sense to us, why should we have to answer it? You don't. We're not like guinea pigs.
What doesn't make sense?
You get to whoa. We aren't guinea pigs for your amusement, where you get to just throw nonsensical questions at us and demand an answer. That's not how this show works. You have to come. You're coming to us presumably with an argument, and as I said earlier, if there were like a fast forward button here, I would be hammering it right now because I haven't heard anything coherent from you in terms of an argument. So what's your argument? Okay. None of this, you know, what would be your response to this? Just tell us what your argument is.
Yeah. You don't, the point is that you don't have a ground to be critical about anything. Okay. Because
is that so?
Reality doesn't, there is no ultimate frame of reference for you to appeal to as to why anything is, can be, and cannot be, which is why I'm asking you.
Thanks for demonstrating that so powerfully.
Well, that's what I'm asking you. That's what I'm asking you. That's the point of asking the question. Is the law of non-contradiction true for a reason or no? Is it true for no reason, arbitrarily?
I don't even know what that means.
Another silly question.
For a reason, or if it's true, like,
is it true for a reason? Is there a reason why it's true, or is it just true? It just happens to be true randomly, by chance, for no reason. It's the brute fact, brute contingency.
What do we mean when we say reason? Are we talking about intent, purpose?
No, is there anything foundational or ultimate in your worldview, which is the reason why anything is, can be, and cannot be, which would include the second law of logic?
Okay, you lost me. I don't know what to tell you, man. You don't have
grounds to be critical about anything.
Okay,
I definitely disagree with that. The fact that you have
from Robin in DC, who's now been dropped, the atheists do not have a ground to be critical about anything for reasons.
You know why, Lloyd? It's because we don't believe eggs can exist and not exist at the same time. If only we could. Lloyd, if you don't believe in that possibility for no reason, then you can't be critical of anything. I mean,
that was bonkers. That's the sort of thing where we need we need one or two calls to kind of warm us up for that sort of call, I think. And I feel like we got pushed in at the deep end there a little bit.
The most complicated conversation about eggs I've ever had in my entire life. I think what was happening was we were trying to get this idea that, well, why not? Why not was the reason here. Why not could the impossible be possible, essentially, was what I was getting at. But that, like, you know, you could say that about anything. Why not? Why couldn't there be invisible zebras walking around us at all times that we can't sense with any of our senses? There could be, I guess. Does it matter? Is it something that we can actually know? Even if we can speculate, that's the thing. Like, just because something is possible doesn't mean that it's true. And the fact that you believe in God, the fact that you believe that this God provides you an ultimate reference, an ultimate frame point, does not actually give you an ultimate frame point. Like, sorry, that's the whole problem with presuppositional arguments. Is it's just the assumption that, well, if this thing is true, then it would be this. It's like, okay, but you have to show that the thing is true, and you can't. You just can't.
What I find fascinating is when people go to the trouble to call into shows like this, and then they're clearly not that interested in convincing or persuading. They apparently just want to sound superior, because I wasn't picking up any genuine effort to reason, to make us understand what he was saying. You know, no. It was literally just a case of, I'm going to go through this set of statements, and if you don't respond the right way, therefore you agree with my premise, which just isn't how it works in any normal conversation.
No. So, if I was trying to have that conversation with you, I would be trying to define my terms. I wouldn't just say like, oh, well, according to the second law of logic, you know, like, that's just, come on. That's just pandering to, you know, a specific audience that says, hey, look at how I'm trying to make these people look dumb because they can't cite my obscure, you know, philosophical texts on presuppositionalism and these works by people. I don't know. It's weird. It's
absolutely.